You said touch your booty, then I'm over here scratching.
Ready? All right. Hi, I'm Austin Northam.
I'm Taylor Patton. Welcome to the Kitchen Table Podcast.
We're here to motivate, educate, and relate to you guys, sharing our stories, helping you get 1% better in all areas of your life. Welcome to this week's episode. We're going to be talking about influence type numero tres. Number 3, that is situational awareness, very similar to strategic depth, about why people try to influence others, I should say, and maybe what they have to do to change people's opinions, which means sometimes changing the order of business you go about it. So we're going to talk about that today. Also, make sure you get your Vitargo and get big, get your bone broth, get your Alanis, get your Brazil nuts, anything else that you're doing to get just a little bit better in the eating department, body department. Cheers to you.
Yes, cheers. I guess I'll do it too.
Nice. Bone broth. Oh! Drinking bone broth. Those of you guys don't know me. I don't want Alani. I'm sure it's good. Cherry slush.
It's very good.
Does it taste like an icy? Yeah, I got so.
It's very good. It's one of my favorites.
That's good. Shout out to any of my students who are listening to this now, since we got you guys followed on there. Appreciate that. I told them I'd give them an A. They did it, so.
I'll take that.
All right. Challenge last week was to just be more self-aware about your impact on others and how you could do that, and be open to it.
I thought of an idea.
Yeah?
Yeah, but off. Because we already talked about it, but sorry, that was way scatterbrained.
You did good? Are you influencing people? You're aware of it, or what happened?
For the challenge? Yeah.
Yeah.
And that I definitely hit, I'd say, yeah, my actions showed up a lot more. I felt like my actions were a lot more intentional towards the kids, as in like what we were doing and what we needed to get done. And that way, like I was like walking, I was more focused on like walking them through steps of why we were doing the things we were doing, more than just like telling them. And that, because I feel like a lot of kids, like, I won't say a lot of kids get frustrated, and people get frustrated sometimes when they don't know the why behind what we're doing.
Yeah, I agree.
And that, especially if you can get the why, because I'm pretty sure Simon Sinek, how you say his name, through his book, he's like, leaders eat last. Yeah. He's like, fine, like, what's your why? All this stuff. Anyway, he like talks about it. He talks about like the 3 circles. He's like, but when like you have your why and like why people know why people are doing what they're doing, they're more likely to follow or be influenced by you or work harder for you just because they know that why.
Yeah. Kind of like students asking, like, why do we got to learn this?
Yeah.
You give them a legit reason, or they know that they're going to be tested over it, they're actually spend some time on it. Yeah. For me, honestly, didn't do a great job of it. I do think that I saw it a couple places, though, mainly in the weight room, because I lifted the school weight room, so students a lot are in there. And we talk about my workouts a lot, so they're definitely watching me and seeing what's going on. So I try to make sure that I'm doing the best things I can do, so that they want to be, I guess, big and strong and work hard too. That's basically what I'm going for. Place that perfectly on the live stream. Nice job. Anyways, quote of the week this week is, our reaction to a situation literally has the power to change the situation itself. One more time. Our reaction to a situation literally has the power to change the situation itself.
Yeah, very much so. What is it? It's 9% of how you react to something to the 10% of what happened to you. It's like life.
9% to 10%?
No, 90. 90% is how you react to life.
10% of life is what happened to you. 90% is how you react to it.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just butchering quotes left and right here.
Yeah, clearly. Yeah, I think it's very similar. I also think that you deciding or being okay with it plays a huge role, because no matter what, the situation is what it is, right? But like you said, 90% is your reaction. But I think you have to be okay with your reaction. So, for instance, when there's change, our first thought is usually like, oh crap, or something negative, you know?
Yeah.
That's just our reaction. But after we think about it for a while, are you still negative? And I think that we need to be okay with having to find a different angle, or okay with doing whatever it might be. I'll give a couple more.
Yeah. Because I'll chime in.
Examples here later.
Yeah. And this is just like what I saw today. Kind of just reacting to the situation. So there's this kid on the track team. He's actually like my primary, and that. But anyway, he wanted to quit the track team and wants to quit the track team.
Nice.
So they have a track meet today, and he just kind of like shut down. He refused to go, like out of the blue. Like he hadn't said anything, he hadn't done anything, and so he hadn't even said that he wouldn't even wanted to quit the track team, and that so he shut down. Then I was like, because I got 3 calls from 3 different people saying, hey, like why is blah 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 like acting this way? Like why is he not doing this? Why is he acting this type of way? I was like, it's fine now. So I run over, talk to him, and he's like shut down mode, so he's not talking to anyone. He's like his reaction to like what happened throughout the day was just to not talk, just to shut down and to avoid essentially. And so then afterwards, and that big track kids leave, all that. So he comes up to the dorm. I go off to a meeting, come back, and then he wants to like talk to me, he wants to chop it up, and I'm like no, like he pretty much like just ignored me for half an hour as I'm trying to talk to you and trying to like figure out like why you're acting this way or like why you're reacting to the situation. And all I want to do, or he told me, was you want to quit the track team. And I was like, well, your reaction to like the situation that you're in probably wasn't the greatest. And so after a few minutes of like talking to him about like how he should have reacted and acted,
yeah,
and that he understood like what I was saying. I was like, yes, you want to quit the track team, but you just shutting down and refusing to go and like not even talking to your track coaches isn't the best way to get the outcome that you're looking for.
He realized it then?
Yeah.
That's some self-awareness and impact right there.
I was kind of still more ticked off. I was like, at this point, I probably spent like an hour talking to this kid about like what was happening.
Yeah.
And that, and I was like, but at the end of the day, like, he understood what I was saying, and that now if he follows through on the advice and stuff I gave him is up to him. But
yeah, we'll find out next week. Stay tuned, folks.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good example of the quote there. Let's take a quick break, and then we'll get back with the definition and jump into situational awareness or influence. That too. Power. Boom.
All sorts of words here.
All right.
Sorry to get my cough out.
Yeah, we're back here. We're back on this episode of what?
We're back on the episode of situational influence.
Thank you.
Definition.
All right. Definition is factors that exist independent of the communication between the influencer and the prospect, but also the impact of the prospect's decision making. That's very complex. Okay, so let me do something else here. Different definition. External or societal factors that surround a community and consciously or subconsciously influence the nature of their interactions, such as geography, religion, economics, etc. So basically, what limiting factors or change somebody's mind or base their decision off of that? Yeah, I was just saying definition, but
I thought you were asking.
There is a lot. Yeah,
I thought you were asking me the question. I didn't know.
No, I was just trying to re-say it. Yes, the answer is yes. There is a lot of.
I get what you're doing now.
I was just trying to reword it and make it a little easier, but yeah. for sure it plays a huge role in people's decision making.
Yeah.
And I think that what we found is one of these kind of categories that we're talking about is the main reason that people change their minds, and it doesn't even have to do with them really thinking about it. That's going to be interesting.
Like thinking about it, as in, what do you mean?
Like they don't even realize they're doing it.
Oh, that they're changing their mind?
Yeah, it just happens. They just kind of go with the flow.
Yeah, I'd say so. Kind of like brick by brick, kind of like 1%, like one step of the way. Like you start doing this a little differently, and then you look back after a whole year, and you're like, wow, now I do this, or I view things this way.
Yeah, we'll just give it away. Groupthink is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
There's 4 main reasons that situational influence applies, and groupthink is the number 1 reason that people change their mind. So groupthink is basically when one person says something, everybody's like, yeah, I agree, because they don't want to disagree or go through the steps of actually thinking about it.
Or go through confrontation.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it also comes through like a lot of people that like with and that have the same type of thinking. The friends you have generally have the same type of thinking.
Yeah, because you grew up together.
And so when you like you're one of the people that like push against the grain, it throws the whole group off, or it throws everyone off because
you're the outlier too.
Yeah, then you kind of come the black sheep.
Yeah.
But if you want to improve yourself, if you want to be the best version of yourself, you're always gonna have to be a black sheep.
Yeah, and you're gonna have to like groupthink. You don't actually think for yourself, you know.
Yeah.
You just go like you could throw your morals and stuff out the window just to keep a job. Like COVID's a great example of this. There's just groupthink with the vaccine, right? Oh, everybody does it. I'll get it.
Yeah.
For those people who are prepared to quit their job because they're forced to get the vaccine, they're the black sheep. You know what I mean?
Some groupthink I did, and that I was like, right when the COVID first hit, I was like, because I used to work at Hy-Vee, I was like, if Hy-Vee makes me wear a mask, I'm quitting. Told this to my older roommate, didn't quit. I wore a mask, kind of.
See?
But I was, I fell into the pressure. Because then I was like, well, shoot, like everyone's having a mask. So I was like, if I quit here, like where I'm actually gonna go.
Yeah, I think I fall into groupthink in trying to like the weight room. Everybody wants to like put the most weight on or be the best, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So like to keep up with the Joneses, you put more weight on, then you don't get as good a form. So I have groupthink in that, which is kind of a weird version of groupthink, but that's what I've been focused on lately. So
I hit PR incline bench 195 for 2 reps. Granted, it's on the Smith machine. I don't care.
It is on the Smith machine. But
taking it all day long.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it was not great form, but it was there.
It's only 10 pounds off my max.
I could press more. But you also don't do Smith machines, so.
Actually, I'm not sure. I think I've done 215 or 225. I don't know. I haven't done it for 5 years. I have no idea.
Yeah, incline bench, probably one of my favorite exercises.
I've just been getting back into benching because I'm just trying to get stronger in general. So who cares if it doesn't help?
Right.
But let me tell you, I'm hitting my weights like easy. I can't believe how strong. Like I haven't benched really ever. Now I'm like getting strong.
You feeling it? Feeling good? Is that the Botarga?
Yeah, the Botarga definitely is helping my recovery. Except for I don't remember what I was gonna say. I'm feeling good in the upper body. Lower body, I'm not feeling good.
Yeah.
Don't know why.
But yeah, going back into it, kind of going back in the same story I was in with this kid. Like again, like the situation, I felt like I had influence on him because like I'm pretty close to him. He's he's my only. And so when like I was getting like, all these texts and calls, I was like, okay, like I need to go see what's going on and see if I can get him out of the mood that he was in and like that communication. Along with that, like when in groupthink, you feel like you are constantly being pulled into thoughts or processes that like kind of like goes against like what you think you're like who you are, and that dive into those, like look into those, and that like I always think like like, I know it's a touchy topic, but like abortion, and that always gets me. And that it's like I don't want to see a kid get killed, but then you always hear about like the crazy stories about like the 0.1% of women getting like raped and being pregnant, or like all the crazy ass stuff, and that, or like 13-year-olds, and that. So like then I was like, wow, that like twists with my like moral.
Yeah, I think it comes down to, are you willing to take the risk? And if it's a moral or something you care about, you should be willing to take the risk. Especially if it's a big thing like that. But I also think that, going off the groupthink, if you like, so many different variables play a role in your decisions, but it's very hard to like sway people a certain way. Like, let's say they are passionate about something like abortion or something. It's very hard to go to plan B, plan C to change their mind, because a lot of the times we base trying to get others off of like a personal ideology, right? So we try to convince people to go to, you could even use abortion here. Religion plays that. I'm this type of religion, they say this about abortion. We try to convince people because of our religion, or our morals, or like, I do a lot of convincing in my life about what I think is right? My diet or my experience, which it works for me maybe, but maybe not for other people. Or I have this vision of what it should look like. So then I try to convince people, hey, this is the right answer, even though it could be a full 100% opinion. So another reason that situational influence plays a large role is because we have our own experiences, and we try to change others' lives to match ours based on our religion, our morals, or what we think is the correct answer. Like, I guess I don't have a specific example. I always go back to the religion thing, because that's like, everybody who's this religion believes this side.
Yeah.
And this side of the company doesn't believe it, so they break off and do something else. That's literally how new religions start. Mm-hmm. So they start a different company with the same type of business, but they have these rules because they want to follow this. So it's about who can be like-minded, which then again turns into more groupthink, because nobody has the individual power to speak up. So I thought that was interesting. I'm reading from a book, actually. Media marketing is what it's actually called. But besides religion, the other big thing is politics. How many people decide what they're going to do based on their political party, we'll say.
Right.
And it creates a bunch of like persuasive communication. It doesn't have open communication like it did, like we talked about last week with tactical.
Yeah.
And how if you're giving people the option, they're going to have a lot more power, and they're going to have a lot more influence and want to be better than if you're trying to convince them of something. Right? We're not trying to sell something, we're trying to build something. Yeah. So I think that's two totally different things, but we let the situation kind of get the best of us because it stresses us out, or we need this, so we do it for our own benefit, right? If I'm going to make money, I'll convince them that this is the way, because then I'll make money off it, but they'll also make money, right? Fortune 500 companies do this all the time, right? Oh, do this, I'll pay you $18 an hour. But really, you're making $2 more an hour, and the CEO is making $2 million more. Yeah. Right? So they don't tell you that part, or you're gonna have to work extra hours, or they're gonna cut a benefit so you actually get paid the same because you lost your benefit. So it's really, it equals out, you know? Yeah. So how many of those things do we have, or do we genuinely want to have the benefit for everybody? So I think that's something to think about.
Right.
I do have a question for you, though. What do you think is the hardest thing to do to change somebody's mind in terms of like, is it, I guess, how hard is it for you to change from plan A to plan B? Yeah.
Personally?
Yeah.
Easily. I feel like
it's not easy for me. So
I feel like on the daily, because like, especially we're not at work, there's always like at work. There's a kid is becoming an issue, so now I'm down 2 staff and I'm taking 12 kids by myself to the gym. Or where we might have an activity that's supposed to be outside, but then it's raining, and now I have to figure out how to do something inside.
Yeah. It's kind of like emotional intelligence.
Yeah. And kind of like just growing up in like the camp setting, like with like just like expecting kids, like not spectating, like supervising kids, and that just I feel like switching plans is like kind of like a learned behavior for me. I was like 17, 16, 17, 18.
Yeah.
And that, so then I had to learn real quick that when it comes to kids and children in general, usually the first time or first thought, first plan isn't happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just realize it. You just plan for B right away.
Yeah. And so like sometimes like I'll make like 3 different plans depending on.
Is that bad though? Because you don't have like some people say don't make a plan B because then you don't believe in plan A.
See, that's the thing is I feel like there's a difference. So that is me.
This is just being prepared.
Yeah. So that's me being prepared for
words
because of other individuals. Or like plan A is be like for you like going out to be an NFL player.
Yeah.
And that where like if you have a plan B to where you're like I'm gonna try and be an NFL player, but I'm also going to play soccer 4 nights a week and try and go to the plan B.
Yeah.
And that where
I agree.
So I think like again that's a situational thing. Is like kind of like jobs. And like right now, like my plan A is to tomorrow actually like I have an interview for a different position in my job. Then that's my plan A. So if it happens, then I will stay in Iowa. Mm-hmm. And if not, then I'll figure out my next plan. But right now, it's like I plan to stay in Iowa.
So here's a question: what do you do? Because I do the same thing. Like I have like an order.
Yeah.
But right now in my life, I'm kind of like the order is unknown. Mm-hmm. Like I think I have an order, but then it could go a bunch of different ways, you know?
Yeah.
Kind of like we talked about a couple episodes ago. But you can only put so much effort into each of those baskets then, you know?
Yeah.
So how do you balance of really what plan A is versus plan B and C when you can control it? Obviously, if it's the weather, you can't control it.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like how much, like for me right now, my problem, I'll just go through a little bit of my situation right now. So I'll just do one of them. There's like 10 of them. Yeah. I'll just go through one of them. So one is deciding to try to do football more or trying to maybe do CrossFit, like on a higher level. But then I have an injured knee, I would say now, and I can't squat at all, and it hurts just to do anything. I shouldn't say it hurts. It feels very catchy.
Weak.
And weak. And I also have my hip that's still injured. I don't know why. That bothers me. So I need to like take time off, but I also need to like work out because I need to be ready for kicking stuff that's coming up and be able to be strong and ready to go. So that way I just have that base covered, you know?
Yeah.
But if I just let's say I do CrossFit stuff, I technically have some time. But do I want to spend $1,500 and get an MRI done? You know what I mean?
Right.
So, and they might tell me nothing, and I might not even have like, or is this a sign that says, hey, you're injured, you don't have the genes to do it, you've tried, this is like, just be a regular Joe.
Yeah.
So I don't know what plan A versus B is because I don't know what the next step is and if there's going to be opportunity in it at all. And I also go to, well, if I don't do any of that stuff, what am I going to do? Like, that's all my fun time.
See, that another thing there is like sometimes like progress comes with subtraction, not addition. And then so sometimes like you need to take things off the table. So like maybe football like so like right now maybe like football, CrossFit on it because you need to focus on like rehabbing in your knee. And the next step in life, like you're getting married, you're traveling the world. And maybe at the end of that comes up something that you found that.
And that's fine if it's the CrossFit world. I just have lost some strength.
Right.
But I can get that back, or I could focus on conditioning or whatever it is. I can not lose as much, but if that's kicking, I miss a camp and then I have to be prepared for another camp.
Right.
So then it's like the timing's not there with whatever leagues are coming up, and that can always it's constantly changing. I learned tonight, but it's just a little more uncontrolled when it should be something that's a controllable. That's what I struggle with is what is the proper plan to go down. And sometimes the best plan is no plan. I've been talking about surrendering. So like I really want to like squat and do stuff, but I got to get my hip better. So I'm just not squatting anymore. I'm just doing like little like single leg like dips and like rehab stuff and getting my knee stronger, like doing quad machines and hamstring machine just for my right leg. And I'm not like gonna run fast. I'm basically just doing it so I gotta get my body better.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying is like sometimes like progress is made in subtraction, not addition. But like sometimes you need to take out the like squatting or all the leg exercises that irritate, pinch, or like work.
That's the problem. I'm so stubborn though. Like we talked about somebody, I think it was a couple weeks ago. Somebody canceled their tour because they hurt their throat. Some singer. And I was like, I'd just cancel one show, or I'd just do less in the one show. I was like, I'd still do it no matter how good or bad it is. And you're like, that's like a serious thing for a singer. I was like, I know, but if I hurt my leg, I ain't missing a game. I got NBA playoffs right now. So many like good players are getting hurt. Like Devin Booker just like hurt his hamstring, right?
Right.
So they could lose and the season could be over.
Yeah.
So I'm like, man, you can play 20 minutes on that thing if you need. But then he's like, he's not going to be 100% ever the rest of the season. So then like I weigh it like, hey, you know what? I got to compete. So I try to push through it even when it's not advantageous.
Right.
Which is probably a problem.
I think again, a different situation, different time, but for him, it's probably like, am I going to push it to where like I can't play ever again?
Yeah, then that makes the decision a little bit.
That's what I'm saying. Is like that hamstring. Like again, like I don't know his feeling. I don't know the situation, but it's like if he pushes it, like there's probably a good chance that like either he'll be out more than what he already is, or like does it say, okay, this is my only opportunity that I'm going to be able to play to get to the finals, or do I sit back and let my team do the work, step up and do the work?
It's hard because you're like,
right, because then you made it that far and like
and you're like the team leader.
But then like at that point, like you're also getting paid. Like that's your job, that's your profession. So it's a little bit.
It is totally different situation, right?
But it is. I'm sure like the psychology and stress.
Yeah.
Is at a very high level. In any professional sport.
Yeah.
It's at a completely different
or even
level.
just job, like.
Right.
But and there's so many. I mean, we'll get to this in a second, but there's so many factors. Like it could just be like, for instance, economic. Right, because that's the fourth thing is how economics is so.
Situation.
Yeah, plays a huge role in situation because a lot of people need to do it because they got to put food on the table, right? Mm-hmm. I was thinking today, some of my decision is based on economics. Can I afford to go train somewhere? Yeah. Can I afford to get an MRI? Can I afford to pay a gym? Can I afford to put all my time into training and not have a job? Yeah. You know what I mean? So that plays a huge role in deciding what's next. And again, that's for your personal gain. That's what causes more groupthink. But if you're at the top of the totem pole, it's easy to change people's minds, I think. Because you're like, you don't have to worry about your situation, because you have the money. If you're at the bottom of the totem pole, it's easier to get your mind changed because if you see a brighter opportunity, you jump at it.
Right. I think it's also easier when you have a background that backs up what you're saying. and that like kind of like how you always talk about like when you have people will when you're in bodybuilding, people will listen to people that are professionals in bodybuilding, where compared to like amateurs.
Yeah.
And that because they made it in that, or people will listen to like kickers more who've been in the NFL because they made
it's just the community they're in.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the status that they've
accumulated.
at.
Yeah.
And so I think that also has a little bit too. But then again, if you're not willing to also, sorry, I'm going way off economics. This is again just like,
no, you're good.
I'm just kind of like spitting thing. But also, if you're not also willing to work when no one's looking or when you have no one, then you'll never see that you made it through.
Yeah.
Or you're like, why is this kid being picked over me? Why did he get a shot here instead of me?
Yeah, and some of, I mean, economic can also be socioeconomic status. So technically, it could play. Intertwined with what you're talking about.
Yeah, 100%. When you have more money to throw around.
Yeah, but it's also like just supplemental, just where you're at versus where they're at. Like, how come, like you said, how come he's picked and not me type of deal? Like, what makes him better in terms of growth perspective than me?
Right.
So I think just we see a small part of something and we're like, oh, we want that. Right? A job interview is literally you see the person for 30 minutes and you think, yeah, I'm going to pick them to run my business.
Yeah.
Or whatever it might be. Or they see a kicker for one camp and they're like, I'm going to choose him. But really they don't know that personal about them or what community they're from or involved in. They just see the superficial, stereotypic stuff, and that includes economics, right? Can people afford to go to get the newest gadgets or go to the next camp or whatever it is? Like in sports, there's some sports that you literally have to be rich to be able to be involved in. Right? There's not a lot of poor people playing golf or skiing.
Yeah.
Just in terms of normal status, there's more poor people playing football.
Yeah.
Right?
Or basketball.
Yeah, running track.
Yeah, soccer.
Yeah, soccer's a little bit more, so especially if you're in a traveling team. But those things all play a role based on who your community is, what your ideal or your personal ideology is. So it affects everything, just based on your socioeconomic status or where you're at in the world, right? Maybe you live in a community that has a rich sports background, right? Their school is always good at sports.
Yeah.
So you move there to play in that. So now all of a sudden your outcome's gonna be a lot better. Like in high school, I probably would have wrestled if I lived in Northeast Iowa, because everybody wrestled. But my high school, nobody wrestled. So I decided not to wrestle. So again, group thing. Like I didn't think it was cool. You know what I mean?
Right. Then like when I going against group thing now, like throwing myself way back high school. Joined the bowling team. Like I was like on a varsity bowling team.
Yeah, you're the OG.
Like there's like 76 people on the thing.
Yeah.
And but it was like it's fun. Like it's still fun. Like it's one of the more fun times. Same thing with I was on our improv team, and like we had for all first years we made it to state.
Nice.
It was pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And but yeah, so like going against the grain is just like
and to be yourself and have those experiences rather than just joining when everybody else joins, you know?
Right.
Speaking of like communities and stuff, in groupthink, what do you think is the hardest community to change? I don't know if you want to think age group, if you want to think sex, if you want to think socioeconomic status, you want to think, I don't know, what do you think is the hardest to change and why?
Hardest to change.
Like community-wise.
I mean, men are harder to change than women.
I definitely agree with that. I think women are a lot more, one, groupthink, two, go with the flow, which is both good and bad. Because I think they're a lot more submissive to be like, hey, you know what, this is okay.
Yeah. We're like a lot, I shouldn't say a lot, but I feel like it's almost like in women's genes to like be like led, and then like where it's in men's genes to be a leader.
Yeah. Which some of it's stereotypical, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to be
one or the other, but
yeah.
I'm like in general thought that's usually how society sees it as.
Yes.
In community wise, I want to say older people are way harder to change than younger people, as you can see nowadays. Like, heck, if flip phones would still be available, my dad would probably still have one. I was like, my grandparents aren't alive, but like, if they were alive, they'd easily have flip phones.
You know what though? There's also like brain patterns. So like you're just kind of finding yourself through like adolescence and learning new things. That's like the learning age is 9 through like 12, and then it's like figuring yourself out as an adolescent. And a teenager's like you don't like yourself and you're trying to conform.
Yeah.
And then after that, you kind of find out who you are in college.
Yeah.
That's just a simple psychology of it. It's a lot more complicated of what you learn when. I think that's why like there's a certain age like 3-year-olds don't know the difference. So of course they're gonna do whatever, right?
Yeah.
You tell them jump off a bridge, some of them will literally jump off a bridge. Like some of them are fearless, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's why you're supposed to learn skiing as a kid because you're fearless. Then you get to adolescent and you're like, oh, I have no idea what to go, so I just go with the flow. Till you learn something, you get burned by it. And a teenager, it's like, okay, this is cool, I'll go with it, or this isn't cool, I won't go with it. But then if you hit the right button, like, hey, you should do steroids, you get really big, right? So then people decide, yeah, I'll do it.
I'm ready.
And then you get to be like, your moral is like, boom, confirmed, you have values and you make decisions off your values, hopefully. As more like a older, hopefully out of college, wiser adult. Like you should always look back 10 years and think, wow, I was dumb back then. Because you're wiser now. And there's always more wisdom to gain. So hopefully that when you look back, you're like, you know what? I shouldn't have done this because I am more aware of who I am now.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to throw that out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What else we got?
I'm not gonna lie, I totally forgot what we were talking about. Situational influence, I know, but when I was telling my story, I had a path with it, and then I just completely lost it. At one point, I asked myself, "What are we talking about here?" And I'm the one talking.
Your question was what is the hardest?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So that's why I think back to that's where I'm going. I'm thinking it's harder to change older people's minds because they're more rooted in their values, I think. And especially like old people. Yeah. Like it's the case of this is how we've always done it, or this was what we did when I grew up. Like they haven't changed with the times, you know?
Yeah. Which
is fine on society things on some stuff, but that's why like technology, older people are usually the last ones to get it. Yeah. Because they don't want it because it's just a change. So I think it's hard to change older people's minds because they're rooted in whatever they're rooted in. So it's just like, why change? If it ain't broke, don't you fix it, you know? Yeah. So that's just what I think. Mm-hmm. I also think it depends on your personal situation. If things are going bad, you're more likely to change your mind. Well, maybe not. Maybe it's the opposite. For me, I'm more likely to change my mind when things are going good. I'm not more likely to change my mind because I got my plan. I'm sticking to it. Everything's going according to plan. If things aren't going good, then I'm more likely to change. Like my injury is like I'm not going to see somebody. At some point, you get fed up and you're just do it. Yeah. Right. And then, so I think you give yourself the power, and then if you change your mind somewhat, you're giving other people power because they're influencing you. So that's also something that maybe scares people is they don't want to give up that power. That's pretty much all I got for situational awareness. Obviously, it's a case-by-case basis, but I think the general pattern is groupthink happens a lot. We don't follow our individual values as much as we should. I think it's easier to influence the people who don't have their set values. I think that economics and stereotypes play a big role. And I think that the community you're involved in or the personal ideologies also make us, one, cause groupthink, two, to think about we are who we hang out with, right?
Yeah.
So it's harder to change your mind in that community. But if you want to be an outlier, that's when I think you become a lot better and show your values and take risks and get 1% better, and also learn how to influence others in multiple situations. And that's ultimately what we want, because one, we feel like we have more power. Two, we have better and more experiences. I should say more memorable experiences. And three, it gives us more of a well-rounded base for who we are.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's exactly like what I was thinking. Like one of my things I wrote down, I don't know why, but in situational influence, I just feel like be you, like don't be afraid to stand out, to go against like, I want to say like
the norm.
Yeah, and I'm the norm, but just like the shell that you put yourself in, and that like be okay with discomfort at times, and cause that's how like you become scarce.
Yeah.
And
that's what we want.
And scarcity draws people in. It allows you to be influential in situations.
Also, if they're really your friend, they'll like you more by standing up and being like, no, I ain't doing this.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need to give into the peer pressure. That's basically what groupthink is peer pressure.
Yeah. And a lot of also groupthink comes from emotions. And
you got to overcome those emotions,
right.
and be a little more logical.
Exactly. And so there's this quote, I don't know who said it, I don't know where it came from, but I put it in my story today, because I was just like, I think it applies to a lot of people. A lot of people make decisions through emotions, where this quote goes, emotions are meant to be felt, not to make decisions from.
Yeah. That's why people say, like, I don't want to make an emotional decision, so they give themselves time to think.
Yes.
That's the point of, like, discerning, stuff like that.
Yeah. And I'll say again, so, like, emotions are meant to be felt, not to make decisions from.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, a lot of, like, people's biggest regrets come from when they're angry.
Yeah.
Or when they're in a frustrated mindset.
Or when they're sad or lonely, or something that's a strong emotion.
Yes, because they mean who they are as a person, and who you are as a person. And then you look back when you're in a more neutral state.
And you're like, what was I thinking?
Yeah. And then you have to now change from like one kind of like how you're like, how you ask the question, like, is it hard for you to change from like plan A to plan B to plan C? If you're making decisions in an emotional state, you're more likely to have to pivot and change the direction of what you're going.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Basically, I agree with everything you said, but I think that when you change plan A, B, and C, if you're not emotionally intact, it's also hard to stick to a plan.
Yeah.
Because you really don't know what that plan is. You're just going based on how you feel, and all emotions are loosey-goosey, we'll say.
Yeah.
Right? They come and go. They're fluent.
Yeah.
So
I got to back to the quote. They're meant to be felt, not to make decisions.
That's right.
That's all I got.
All right, let's talk about challenge of the week then. Simple challenge this week. Very simple, but very hard to do. Taylor, you want to explain it?
Yeah, be okay with plan B and C. And that if plan A falls through, don't be afraid to look and have a plan B and C in order.
I like that. I need to work on that in general. It helps me to surrender, you know? So I'm going to focus on that this week. All right. Anyways, thanks for tuning in this week. Be sure to catch us on Thursday for the 1440. We'll talk more about situational influence and some power and how to influence others. And then let you guys go off on the rest of your week. Talk to you later.
Love you. Bye.